What's going on, folks? Thanks for tuning in to the Adventure Talk Live. This is a kind of our little podcast mini show. It's where instead of going out and living the adventure, we take some time to just sit on our ass and talk about it. Well, in all seriousness, though, I'm joining Kyle and Paige. We had a great hunt up in Michigan, which is quite far from where I normally hunt in North Texas. So today we're just going to kind of, recant our memories and stories and just kind of talk about that fun trip up to Michigan. So welcome, Kyle.
Well, thank you. It was one of those things where I'm from Michigan, so I got to go back to my homeland. But the interesting thing about this is I've never really hunted there. So I'm really excited to talk about this today.
It's honestly kind of similar to I started hunting, I hunted Mississippi long before I hunted Texas, even though I'm from Texas. And then, that's where I got fired up about deer hunting. Then now living in Texas, I love it and I hunt here more than anything. But it was really fun. So I guess we'll just kind of go chronologically through this whole thing. And I guess we'll just start with the drive up there. So from North Texas, it was what, 17 hours, 18
Yeah,
hours?
a little over 17. Yeah, it was a good trek. Took us a couple days to get there, but it started in a nice whirlwind of trying to get out of Dallas at the end of rush hour on a Friday night.
Yeah,
You can imagine that.
which is always fun. But we made it. And so I think at first we were going to try to get up there and not hunt the first day. We never thought we'd have time to hunt the first day, but we thought we would have potentially time to go kind of glass some of the fields, kind of scout a little bit. But we didn't really have time to do that either. We kind of got out there and we glassed one field. We saw something out in the field that we think was a buck, but not really sure what it was. But that was just kind of identifying that first spot.
Yeah, well, I think what really happened was, so on our drive up, we stopped at our friend's house, stopped at Nate's house, and spent the night there. Waking up thinking, oh, we'll leave at 7 in the morning, and we'll be fine getting there by 3:30 in the afternoon. Well, Michigan is on Eastern time zone, which I seem to forget quite often. And so 7 o'clock in Memphis is 8 o'clock in Michigan. So
Yep.
yeah.
Whoops. That hour just kind of disappeared.
Yes. So getting there at 3:30 and glassing over some fields from 4 to 5 turned into getting in closer to 5:30 was when we got to the farm. So sun had already set. So kind of out of luck that night.
But we got up. Well, we found our spots, and then the first morning. So I basically went back to that exact same spot because it was pretty predictable. It was just on the edge of a field, huge field. I looked at it on satellite afterwards, and it was something like 980 yards long or something like that, or maybe it was 980 meters. I don't know. It was basically a kilometer long, huge field. So we were just hunting one little corner of it. So set up the ground blind there. Saw one deer come out. I think it was a little button buck. And then saw a couple deer. It probably wasn't till, I guess, goodness, 9:30, something like that. Crossing on the neighbor's property. I saw one interesting buck he was broken off entirely on his left side, but his right side, he was, pretty decent. I think 4 or 5 points, something like that. And then a doe with 2 fawns up there as well. But nothing I could shoot. So they were all either out of range on the neighbor's property or just not something I was going to shoot. So that's what I saw the first morning. And so you were remind me, you were in that tree stand first morning, right?
Yeah, so we've got another property that's over by it's a smaller river, so it's a spot that we go camping quite often in the summer. So I knew my way around there in the dark, so I kind of squeezed in. That was along a cornfield, which had been picked, but not picked well. There's corn everywhere in that field, just scattered. It looked like somebody had broadcasted corn all over the field. So something not used to after hunting in Texas for
Yeah.
sure was just that there's just, food everywhere for these deer. So going out and like trying to, if you had a feeder or something, they'd be like, well, what's the point of that? I can go to some other field if you're going to shoot me here. So going along that cornfield, and I was getting ready to set up my pop-up blind. So I just knew, I just kind of wanted to look out on that field and just watch that first morning. And as I was going to set up the pop-up blind, I looked back and there's a tree about 15 feet away from me that had a ladder stand in it already that it had already told me about, but he didn't know exactly where it was, and it happened to be in that spot. Yeah, so I went back there and just watched that first morning, and I didn't see a thing. Well, I guess I saw a coyote run across the field, so I just saw one thing. So I saw a little bit of action. So I saw that, but that was it. It was snowing that first morning. Beautiful morning. Lots of squirrels. So if I was red squirrel hunting, I would have just filled my bag, but I wasn't. So yeah, but it was a nice morning to sit and just kind of get used to the woods there again.
And that I don't think that was our coldest morning, but that was
No.
the only morning we had significant snow. So
Yeah.
to me, it looked cold, which counts for a lot.
For some reason, you kept saying that. You're like, just look out there. It looks cold. We're driving up, and we got to like Illinois, Indiana, Michigan. He's like, just looks cold out there. I was like, what does cold even look like? There's no snow that day.
It just influences your psyche when it's that, I don't know, everything's gray and cloudy and there's no sun and you see the wind and you just makes you cold just like
the wind. Yes, I agree. When I see the trees just blowing back and forth and I already know that it's 20, 30 degrees out, that's when it looks cold to me.
Yep.
If I don't see the wind, that the cold doesn't bother me. If it's not windy, it's not a big deal. So, but I think so. Okay, so that first morning you saw a few deer. I saw a few down by the river. Remind me again, what did we do that first night that we hunted?
Well, so after that is when we kind of, after seeing stuff in the field, we decided to reassess a little bit. So in the middle of the day, we went and we hung that tree stand.
Mm-hmm.
And we hung that tree stand, and then we went and just looked around a little bit. So you ended up hunting in that tree stand, just a hang on.
Yes.
That night.
I remember now.
And then I basically moved the pop-up that I was in to the other end of the field where I saw that one deer, which ended up being kind of funny and ironic because I had moved it. So I was on one side, moved it over, and then all the deer came out and they were basically standing eating right where I had been that morning.
Yes.
So they weren't afraid of my smell or didn't smell me. I don't know. They were standing right there eating the grass I was standing on. So I don't see how they couldn't have picked up any sense of smell.
Yeah.
So I guess they just weren't too worried about it.
Yeah.
And then that night was interesting for me because I had one button buck come out and it was kind of walking around by itself, and then deer just kept trickling out. I saw a couple little spikes. I saw that same goofy one-sided buck again, but he was running all the way at the other end of the field. He was probably 400 yards away with me, or away from me. But then I think something that kind of sets the context of all of this is because of Michigan's limited firearm zone.
Yep.
We weren't using regular deer rifles. Normally we both hunt with a 270. So you see a deer at 200 yards and you're going to go for it. I mean, that's well in the range of a 270.
Oh, yeah.
But Kyle was using a shotgun, Mossberg 500 with a slug barrel. And I was using my goofy little lever action.
It was awesome.
So in that shotgun zone, it's basically muzzleloader, shotgun, or a straight walled cartridge over 35 caliber. What is it? Straight walled over 35 with a cartridge overall length not to exceed 1.8 inches. So it's a very complicated way of saying revolver rounds.
Yes.
So I realized you can basically just put a revolver round in a lever action and have a more accurate revolver. So that's what I was using. But all that to say, we had a limited range. So even though I was seeing 8 or 9 deer that night, really I had a button buck and then a tiny, tiny little doe fawn within range of me. And I think that doe fawn got to, I don't know, probably 10 yards. It was cool how close that fawn got, but it was
Yeah.
almost just, I was nervous because I was like, this one fawn is just gonna like walk right up to me and then blow the whole thing.
Yeah.
But she was real jumpy and kind of ran off and then came back in, and there I think it was just a young stupid deer.
Yeah.
But didn't see anything I could shoot at. And remind me, what did you see that night?
So that was the night that I saw my first deer. So it was right at the end of shooting light, and I mean I think it was right at shooting time, and 4-point, comes just barreling across the field, and I'm pretty sure so somebody's hunting on the neighbor's property right on the edge of the other side of the field, and he got up early, so like he didn't even wait till the end of shooting time. And I think he bumped this deer because it just came barreling, but it came barreling right under my feet in that tree stand. But I wasn't about to first night just start shooting at a deer just racing across the field. So he didn't stop. He ran right into the woods because I was right on the edge of the woods, and he cut in there, and I just heard him just sloshing across the river. So
now in hindsight, do you still think that was a 4-point, or do you think that was a different deer?
I still think it was a 4-point.
Okay.
I got a really good look at him. He was right underneath me.
Well, because we saw that 4-point on camera. So in the middle of the day, we had also pulled that camera just to see what was out there. So I think that makes sense. I was just wondering if it was that other one, maybe.
Yeah, or maybe, no, I think it was a 4-point. But
gotcha.
At this point, I'm going to bring my wife in because she actually joined the hunt, not this night, but the next morning. So this is Paige.
Hey.
What's up, deer slayer?
Hey.
So this was your very first deer hunt.
It was, yes.
And so you started hunting. So we kind of talked through the drive up there and then our hunt on Sunday, where we were just figuring out where the heck are they? Where do we need to set up stands generally? And then you started hunting Monday morning, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep. That was the first time we went out.
Yeah.
And we were over by the pig barns in that little blind that I think y'all had set it up the night before.
Yeah, it was the spot that Plenty had sat in the night before, in that corner of the big field.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we need to back up into that a little bit. So the pig barns were that was almost like a character in this whole story. Because so on the farm we were hunting, there are 2 huge pig barns right there, and these deer must have just been totally nose blind, all their nostril hairs burned out or something, because with that breeze from the pig blind, we weren't too worried about cover scent, but somehow the deer lived right there, right by it. So
they liked it over there.
it was a great spot. It was funny though, because you could like hear the pigs running around in there, but the deer didn't even seem to care.
Oh yeah, they were totally used to it. Like they just enjoyed it. I think around the pig barns it's warmer there, so when it does get really cold, I think those young deer like that heat coming off of that, because they bed right up against the backside of those barns. I think that heat blowing out of there probably makes it nice and comfy for them.
So y'all hunted the pig barns that morning, and what did you see?
Well, it was a pretty tight squeeze too. I wasn't really expecting, I don't know what I expected, but we got in there and we had to kind of like shuffle around. We were on top of each other pretty much. And I really wanted to get to where, because we bought a gun stand that I hadn't really used before. So we were trying to get that set up right. And
then that takes even more space.
Yes, it does. So poor Kyle was on like a little triangle.
I was fine in the corner, but so we had a tripod to rest the gun on. Just it's a big shotgun, heavy gun. You don't want to be. It just makes it a lot easier, and especially the first time you're out there, just to you don't have to worry about like how do I get the gun and maneuver it into place and get it up where it's already sitting somewhere where you can just kind of get behind it and point it where you need to. Just kind of puts your mind at ease a little bit when
it's one less thing to worry about.
Exactly.
So what did you see?
We didn't see too much until like halfway through. We saw all the deer came out, like this group of doe, and they were out by that mound that was like 200-300 yards.
It was about
out.
About 270 yards from us, which is
where I was sitting the first day, basically.
Yes, where you started with your blind the first day.
So it was exciting, but we couldn't shoot at them. So
that's the tough part about it. Like, when you always want to see deer when you hunt, even like your mind is always like, I just want to see something. I just want to see something. Then when you see it, then you're like, I just want to shoot something. Right. I just want to shoot something. Yeah, exactly. So it's that like, like a paradox of like, you always want that next thing. And then once you get it, it's like, but what's next? What can I get next? And so, so like when things are kind of dry and you're not seeing stuff, you're just like, I just want to see something, even if I can't shoot it. And then as soon as you see it, you're like, never mind, my mind changed. I just want to shoot it.
Well,
even if it's not the biggest one.
Between hunting like out in these open spots and then hunting back in the woods, because there's so many places, like the woods are so thick in North Texas that like if a lot of times if you see it, like it's in range, like you can shoot it. And if you're using a regular rifle, you can see it, it's in range.
Yeah.
But up here, there were 10-to-1 deer you could see that were out of range versus what you could actually shoot at.
For sure. Which does add to the excitement. I enjoy that. I enjoy just like seeing them, seeing what they're doing, kind of watching their interactions, how they, why they're moving, the way they're moving, what they're doing. And I think that first morning, that was when, like right at first light, they were at about 200 yards. I thought we saw that group run right across, and that kind of one-sided buck ran across, like when it was like still kind of dark out. Remember? They were like 200 yards out.
Oh.
Remember that?
Oh. No.
I think they just came trucking right across. And it was like they're running out of the field.
Kyle, what buck was that?
Oh, it was one-side Willie, We had to name it because everybody names deer, right?
Because that's what you do now.
That's what you do.
You have to get to know the deer. You have to name it. You have to remember his birthday. You need to collect sheds for at least 3 years. Then you make them a cake and then you kill them or something.
I'm only hunting one-side Willie this year. That's it. If I don't see him, then...
No, we always laugh at these podcasts that they have a nickname for every single deer they see.
Really?
Yes.
We're meat hunters, so we're just like, well, that was a buck. That's a legal buck. We're gonna shoot at it. So.
Exactly.
And then that morning, I'm trying to remember. I don't think I was up in the tree stand. That was my first morning up in the tree stand. And I remember the way we had hung the ladder on the stand, I would have liked to have put it a little more to the side because that was my first time climbing up in that thing in the dark and it had ice all over it. And I was kind of sketched out. I didn't really say anything, but like climbing into that, I was like, that was interesting. But got up there. I don't think I saw anything that morning. But then we went, had lunch, and then that evening, so I was sitting in the stand, didn't see anything the whole time, and then like right at dark, in fact, I remember I was looking at my watch, and right when it was not legal time anymore, I was like, okay, well, time to put it away. I put my rattling horns away, took my gloves off, tied a rope around my rifle, started lowering it down the tree, and then sure enough, like I had tied the rope onto my gun. And then a little buck just ran right under me. It was probably 40 yards. It ran like right under me. And I was like, goodness, I can't believe I missed that by just a couple minutes. And so I was kind of frustrated, but I didn't really know what it was. I just knew that it had something on its head. I didn't know if it was a good buck, if it was a spike. I didn't know what it was. But saw it. And then I was kind of bummed out thinking I had missed something awesome. But that's all I saw that night. What did y'all see that night?
Well, I think that was that night where we put the pop-up blind back out by the mound where we kept seeing the deer.
The bigger one.
Y'all just kept flip-flopping the whole time. It's musical chairs.
Well, that's where we saw the deer that morning. So we were like, well, that's where the deer go. So we're going to go there.
No, it makes sense. It's just funny because y'all were like trading spaces with the deer.
Oh, yeah. they definitely outsmarted us there for a while.
They did.
They're, so we'd set up here, they'd be down there 300 yards. We'd set up there, they'd be down here 300 yards. So yeah, we set up back out, 300 yards back out in the field. There's this dirt mound where we just kind of set the pop up by. And the deer actually came back out in the corner where our pop-up blind was.
Right
and
in front of it.
Tell them what they did.
They came like slowly out, and they literally stopped like right in front of our smaller blind, our other one. And we're watching them, and they're like looking in the window, like, oh, what's in there? Like,
peekaboo.
Yes.
Just like hanging out, and we were just like couldn't believe it. Yeah.
So,
but why didn't we sit in that one?
Yeah, exactly. Because then they would have been sitting by the other one.
Exactly.
So they kind of trot by. We're watching them in the binos. They trot by the other blind and came, and they're kind of curling back out towards us. We're like, oh, they're moving in our direction.
Yeah.
So they did. They came. They started at a little over 300 yards, I think, at that other blind, and they came within. I don't know. They might have been at 170. Which still isn't close enough. But the thing is, we're using the rangefinder, and you're in a cornfield. Like, try to hit the ground in the right spot in a cornfield with a rangefinder, right after sunset, which, you got an extra about 25 minutes after sunset to shoot. And so the sun had set, but we still have 25 minutes to shoot. And so we're, I'm trying to ping, and I was like 104. I was like, oh, that thing's in range. And then I'm like, wait a sec. So I look through the sights, and I'm looking, I'm like, that deer looks way too small.
Because like, that's a 2 MOA dot, and it's covering half the deer. No way that's 104. I mean, I think on that flat terrain, it's honestly the difference between like you're hitting one corn stalk or another one, and it'll be 47, 91, 203.
Well, I brought it back up, and it was at like 170. And I was like, oh, never mind.
Yeah.
So I'm glad I kind of went with my instincts on that. I was like, I know that deer's more than 100. But then another one.
Well, meanwhile, I'm like, shoot it.
just lob one in there. Hail Mary.
You can shoot it. I was like, no, I'm gonna look. So I'm just looking, and I can't get that red dot, and I didn't adjust the light down, and we're still just getting used to all this, and so I'm just not sure of the shot, so I just don't take the shot. Well, meanwhile, Paige looks up, and she's like, there's another one coming out in front of us.
Kyle. Meanwhile, we're focusing like this group of deer is like off to the left. So you kind of have to like get in the corner of the blind and kind of shoot around the corner. So we're focused this way. And I like look over here.
Right.
And it was like right. And I was like, was like trying to get his attention without making a lot of motion.
This is a big doe at about 70 yards, which is
right there
in the wheelhouse.
And so I finally get his attention, and he's just like, his eyes got like really big. And
I was excited. So
like, how do we move and turn and point at it without getting busted?
Directed this way, and we had to like.
And I got over to it. Because it gave us a lot of time. It was moving. It was just kind of moving slow. It was looking at us, and then it looked away. I got on it, and I got that bead right on it, and I was like, that's what a less than 100 yards looks like through a sight. I'm like right there, like double lung right there. Had the dot on him or on her, and get on it. I'm steady. I'm sitting on one of the rest and pull the trigger and click.
Oh no.
So
the worst sound ever is when you expect there to hear a bang and you hear a click, or you expect
and he just like looks at me, and I'm just like, what happened? and so he even got to
I recocked it. Well, I like pulled it out, and I was like, did I do something dumb? Like check, is there a round in there? So I pull it back quietly. And I'm feeling in there. And
meanwhile, the deer is still there.
Oh, yeah. It didn't move. And I slide it back forward. So I, pull it, cock it back forward. Like, get back on it. It stood there the whole time. And click again. Twice. It clicked. So then I just pull back and cock, I just like release it and just cock that
Forget that shell,
Yeah,
throw a different one in
pull
there.
a new one in, and that's when doot, 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 doot. That's when it ran.
Man.
It's so loud, by that time we're both just like, what's going like, I'm being so loud because I'm so mad, and I was still like whispering, but just like the gun rattling and everything.
Yeah, seriously. And so we looked at it afterwards, and my thought, and I don't know if you've learned anything since, but I think it was just that shell. The primer was just, I think it was just set too deep in that one shell.
I agree. Yeah. So what happened is there was a little dimple on the primer. So we're looking at that shell, and there's a dimple in the primer where it hit. It just didn't fire. It didn't hit that primer hard enough, and so yeah, we just didn't have. It just didn't blow. So went home just really, really bummed out. So after a couple days of
y'all were frustrated.
seeing
I could tell.
yeah, and we were both just sitting there like, we should be cutting up a deer right now.
Yeah. But I feel like after that night, so I had seen a deer, so I hadn't seen anything in the morning, and then I saw a deer right, I guess to back up, there were a whole bunch of scrapes and rubs like right by where I was. So I'm like, I know they're here, but I haven't seen anything.
Yeah.
So me seeing a deer that night was a big confidence builder for me. And then you having that light primer strike was probably just an incredibly frustrating moment for you.
Yeah.
But I felt like that night was kind of a turning point.
Yeah.
That night was when we're like, okay, we know where they're coming out.
Yeah.
We kind of know what's happening.
Yeah.
We're done messing around. Let's go get something.
Both had deer in range.
Yeah.
And
the
first time, like both had it in range. We're both like, it's the first one, the first, shot for us that didn't happen. And then the first where you were just like, okay, if I was set up and it was 10 minutes earlier, I would have had a shot at that deer.
Yeah.
So is that like, there was the potential there for a shot rather than like, oh, I saw it out at 300 yards, and or you just is all that like long range stuff where you're like, okay, I know they're here, but now it's like, no, they're here.
Yeah,
they're in a range. I know they're using this area. I know they'll come in eventually. So
well, the next morning was my big frustrating moment. So y'all got yours out of the way. Mine, the next morning, I was sitting there, sun came up, beautiful crisp morning. The wind was just right. I was excited because I had seen that deer last night. So I was like, okay, cool. There's something here. So I was excited. Didn't see anything in that morning. And then about 8:45, I saw a doe pop out at 310 yards because the whole time I was just standing there. Like I was just standing up in my tree stand, just glassing the whole time just because I wanted to see something so bad.
Yeah.
And so I saw that doe pop out at 310 yards and I was watching it. And then sure enough, a buck came out behind her. And I was like, 310 yards, and I can see antlers from here. That means it's something decent.
Yes.
And so I kept watching it, got the glass on it, and I'm like, okay, that's a big buck. He's definitely outside the ears. I think now it was a 9-point, but he was a real big, heavy deer.
Yeah.
And so I watched him hang out a long ways away. Then they kind of went back in the woods again, came out probably 215, 220, something like that. Then they went back in the woods, and then I kind of saw them moving a little bit through this long, kind of narrow tree line. And I was like, okay, that's good. That means maybe they're going to keep following this tree line, which is pointed right at me. So sure enough, they did. And then that tree line came out to about 140 or so. The doe walked across there, and then the buck, I grunted at him, and he looked in my direction, but he wasn't having any of it. He wasn't interested. He was just interested in following exactly where that doe went. Wherever she went, he just wanted to stay about 15, 20 yards behind her. So then I saw the doe start crossing my way, and I was like, okay, this is good. This is the best decoy I could have. So she starts walking my way. And so I'm watching this doe. She starts working up. She narrows down to 100, 80, 50. And then she gets to the tree line where I'm sitting. And so she's probably 35, 40 yards away from me. And meanwhile, this buck is kind of trailing behind her. So he's now at about 80, 90 yards. He's within range, but there's some trees and stuff. So it's not great. So I figure, well, this doe's so close, he's going to keep on coming. So maybe I've got a chance at a, 50, 60-yard shot. And then all of a sudden, I don't know what it was. This doe was looking off to the side and she saw something she didn't like. I don't think she smelled me because she wasn't looking my way. She didn't raise her tail. She just trotted off, something she didn't like. So she got out of there. And then the buck, as he had done to enter the field, just started following her out of the field. And I was like, oh no, there goes this monster buck. Like, I'm not going to see him again. He's just going to run away. It's going to all be over. And so I like mouth like bleated really loud, just like, to stop him. And he did. He stopped. And so I stopped him out there. And then I was turned around like almost straight behind me, propped the gun up against a tree, and I shot at him. And I felt like I was right on him, but somehow I missed. And I was like, how the heck did I miss? And then he went running off, tearing across the field. And as he was running, I was just like, well, I don't know. We're in Michigan. Do what the Michiganders do.
When in Michigan.
So I just threw another one in there and threw another one at him. And then he stood still. Again, he was probably at 180 at this point, and I threw another one when he stopped. But at this point, I'm like shooting through the woods, and he's still standing there, and I'm just like, what am I doing? Like, I can't hit him. Maybe I bumped my scope against the tree, and it's off. And then eventually, he trotted off. Like, he was well out of range by the third shot. I shouldn't have taken the third shot. He was probably out of range by the second shot, but the first shot, I should have had him. So I was like, what happened? But I did have my little Tacticam on top of my gun. We rewatched the footage like 2 or 3 times. And then Kyle, I think you first noticed it. You're like, see that little twig? It's not there after you shoot.
What was crazy about it is there's a branch that went straight across the lungs and the heart. Not a branch, it was a twig. It was really thin, but you could see this black line that goes straight across the lungs and the heart of the deer. And then you hear the we got the gunshot, and then all of a sudden that one branch, I mean, there's little branches kind of here and there, not thick or anything, but that one branch just disappears.
So I shot the one branch that's blocking me, and these little pistol rounds that I'm shooting, like it hits one little thing, and who knows where it went.
No kidding.
So I was like, oh, I just screwed it up. That was like the coolest buck. I'm not going to see him again. I messed it up. So after that, I was like, I was bummed, and I was excited to tell everybody that like I saw a big one. Like it was a really cool deer.
Yeah.
But I was still like, I was kicking myself because I was like, I messed it up big time. But what about that morning for y'all? What'd y'all see? Anything?
Nothing.
Nothing.
Absolutely nothing.
Nothing. Nada.
Which sucked because I went into that morning like really excited, especially after what happened last night. And I was like, we're gonna see something. Like today's the day. And then like we literally saw nothing.
Pretty sure that was my birthday.
Yeah, it was. It was your birthday morning, and I was like, man, that was boring.
Like, happy birthday, no deer.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was cold.
Really cold.
And we saw nothing. It, when like 22 degrees is kind of cold when you're seeing deer. 22 degrees is really cold when you're not seeing deer.
Yeah.
Did we go back to the big blind or the small one?
I think we're back in the small one, if I remember correctly. I could be wrong though. I'm not sure which one it was.
Yeah.
But I think that spot where y'all were hunting, the pig barn spot, as we're calling it, it seemed like a much better evening spot. Just that was
for sure. Yeah.
Not good for mornings.
The food pattern.
30 minutes before sunset, they just
I'd say closer to that. Like,
I
feel like they waited last minute.
Yeah. Well, actually, we had 25 minutes after sunset, so they waited till like right at sunset is when they would move in. Mm-hmm. So the sun would set, they'd move in. You still had a little time to shoot. So yeah, it was, you were shooting at dusk every night pretty much once they got in range. So, which makes it a little harder to identify them and things like that. So then you're taking a little more time to get the binos on them, even when they are, only 80, 90, 100 yards or whatever, just to, see what you can see. I mean, you can see well enough, but you're doing one of those, like, you can't just look out there at the field and know exactly what every deer is. It's like you do when the sun's still up. So, but yeah, that morning was just, it was dead. cold. So
I think having binos for both of us was very helpful this hunt, because there was just a lot of, like I was saying earlier, there's some hunts where it's just when something pops up, you know if it's go, no go instantaneously. This was a lot of just looking and figuring it out.
Yep. Yeah. And it was nice. Paige and I both had binoculars sitting in the blind, and especially when they were nosing into our other blind, we're both sitting there with binoculars, just like, oh my gosh, are you kidding me? Like whispering to each other, like, did you see that? She put her head right in there. Yeah. And the crazy thing was, like, we expected that out of some like dumb little button buck or something, but it was like the big doe. Like you could see, like it was, the big mama. She's the one sticking her head in the blind, and we're like, are you kidding me? That's the one we wanted to shoot out of that group.
Yeah. Oh man.
But yeah, so I mean, that was exciting to watch together through the binos, and just like you're identifying the deer and everything, and tell which ones are the yearlings and which ones are the big does and things like that. So that was definitely a learning situation for me. I'm guessing it was for you too, Paige.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Well, that evening, so
this is when all the fun really began.
Yeah, well, so after I had seen, I saw that little buck that I didn't even know what it was at the time. It had run by me the night before. So I was like, maybe that'll happen again. Who knows? And then I saw that big one, and I was just so excited about that big one that I'm just like, I don't care about any other spot. I'm going to keep hunting this tree till I see him again. So I went, hung back up in that tree. Didn't see any deer near me. Through the binos, I saw a deer like in the neighbor's bean field, like 600 yards away. Just like 10 minutes before dark, came out, ate some beans, went to bed. I don't know. I was kind of mopey. I was like, I missed my one opportunity. Screwed it up. It's all over.
Not going to see any more deer.
And then I was texting you. I was like, I didn't see nothing. Like, you see anything? I was just being all dramatic about it. And you're like, yeah, we'll come get you. And I was like, okay, yeah, come pick me up. That'd be good. And then you're like, yeah, and then we'll go get the deer. I was like, oh, the deer.
The deer.
You got a deer?
Nothing. I didn't say anything after that.
No.
But actually, what I'd like to do is I'd like to take a half a step back. So that night, like, we had an opportunity. My stepdad, called the guy that was hunting on the other side, kind of around the other corner of that big field that we had been hunting on, and found out, I mean, it's all my stepdad's property. He lets a few other people hunt on it, and called the guy up, and he said, oh, I'm not hunting until Friday. So, go ahead and, use my spot. So you can go in there, do, hunt the area. Don't worry about it. And so that's when we made the decision that I was going to go into this guy's, setups over there, and Paige was going to sit in the ground blind by herself. So what I like to do is pass it over to Paige, and I would like to hear what you were thinking when I dropped you off. Suggested it, dropped you off. What were you thinking when you're sitting there for a while? What were you thinking?
So this was your first solo hunt.
Yeah, it was.
Yes.
You had kind of gotten the gist of what's going on, where they're going to come from.
Right.
How do I shoot this goofy shotgun with a red dot on it? This is your first time doing it by yourself.
Yeah, that's true. I only shot that gun, twice? Three times at the range.
Yes.
Because he had to sight it in, and we really wanted to go together, and we had gotten a babysitter too, and that fell through. And I was like, no, we're still going. So we brought the kids with us to the range, and it took Kyle a couple
few extra shots
to sight it in. And,
yes.
So I'd really only shot it 3 times. So I was a little, and I felt like it kicked a lot at the range, but when
you're leaving out some details about those 3 shots, I think.
Oh, well, yeah. They're all in the center.
First one was a little bit left.
Yeah, the first one was
next 2 bullseyes.
Yeah.
50 yards with a shotgun.
Yeah, that's great.
Which is pretty awesome.
Yeah.
So I was like, yeah, you're good.
I do like shooting.
She's got a great shot.
I
wasn't worried about that.
Yeah, I haven't been able to do it in a while because ever since we had kids, I just haven't.
Hard for both of us to get out there.
But anyway, so when he suggested it, I was like, well, it is your birthday, I guess.
So that's why you did it.
Well, if it wasn't your birthday, I probably would have pushed back a little bit more. But
you do what like, you want to do.
Right, yeah, it's like, if you want to go up in a tree, you can go up in a tree. So yeah, he just dropped me off, and I got all sit up. I did enjoy the fact that it was just me in the blind, solely because it wasn't cramped. Like, yeah. I could put the stand where I wanted it to go, and my chair where I wanted it to go. And I had everything like all set up and organized, and I just like sat there and waited, and it was so much. I missed having the company, that's for sure. Because I just was like, oh, I don't see anything. It's really cold. There's no snow on the ground, so it's not even that pretty. It smells like pigs. But
did you worry about shooting it up? Like, were you like thinking about like if something came out?
Well, yeah. So I had a plan. So like I had steps that I would do. So I'm like, okay, if I see anything, first thing I'm going to do is take the safety off. I was like, step one. That's just what I'm going to do, just so I don't have to worry about it. And I already had the gun like pointed where like an ideal shot would be. So after that, I was just like, I'll just like figure out what to do after that.
Yeah, instincts will take over.
Yeah, sure. So
sure.
I don't know. I mean, I really didn't see anything. And I think you even left a call with me, and I did that once.
Oh, really?
Just because, you know.
Yeah, right. Dear.
So I was texting Kyle, and I was like, I haven't seen anything. I'm cold. Like, have you seen anything? And I think he said that you had seen some stuff. So I was like, okay, well, that's good. Are they coming my way?
Yeah, that's a yes. Did they wander my direction?
Yeah.
When will they be here?
Right. Yeah.
Can you give me an ETA? I'm going to take a nap.
So I don't know if I told you to like come get me first, but then I heard your shot, like, because you had shot at something, and I was like, oh, that was definitely Kyle. And then I heard another shot, and I was like, okay. I was like, what's going on? And so I was just like sitting there, and he wasn't texting back, obviously. And I look out my side window, and I was like, oh my God, there's a deer right there. And it was so close, and like my heart starts racing. And so I'm like, okay, safety, first step, take the safety off. So I reach over real slow, and I can't get the safety off. Yeah, it was like stuck. It was really like, it's a brand new gun. So, and we haven't really broken it in. So I think I tried like 3 different times to like flip the safety off. And because I was trying to be real still and like quiet. And so by the time I got the safety off, the deer had already like curled around and was like right in front of me. And so, I was like sitting back, you know, and so like I had to slowly like kind of sit up and like get positioned. And I had to like keep freezing because he kept looking at me. And so I would freeze, and then he'd go back to eating. And so by the time I got on my gun and almost locked in on him, he like gets spooked, and he starts like trotting off. And I was like, oh no, I'm gonna get this deer. So I knew he was moving, so I was like, okay, so I need to aim in front of him, because he was like running back towards the woods. So I aimed a little bit in front of him, and I shot, and he went down immediately. Nice. It was pretty quick. And my first, I was like so amped up, and like my first shot was like, that was terrible, he was moving. Like, he's just dropped. I probably ruined the back strap. Like, you know, like
I probably ruined the back strap.
That I didn't want to. Yeah. So I texted.
I think that's so great though. Just the confidence in like, instead of wondering like, did I hit it? Like, did I wound it? Like, what happened? Like, you just saw him. You just knocked him on his butt.
Yeah. No, he went down immediately, and he was still kind of moving. But y'all told me later that that's, you know, normal. It wasn't like he was still alive. He was, yeah. So
he was dead on shot.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so you put it right through his neck.
Yeah.
So
I did.
that,
Yeah.
That is
he was gone before he hit the ground.
Yep.
Mhm. So I texted Kyle like immediately because by then he had texted like, I got one. And I was like, me too. and then I forgot this part. So I killed that deer and I was like, I had just texted Kyle and then I looked up, there was another deer right in front of me. Like just sitting there, and I was like, where did you come from? And so I just like picked up the gun. It wasn't even on the stand, and I was like, shh, and I hadn't cocked it. But that one started running, so I shot after that one too.
True Michigander style.
But
just Hail Mary.
Yeah, that one I missed, and he or she, I guess, stopped right at the woods and like looked back at me and was like laughing at me. So, but I was like, whatever, I got one. So,
yes.
Yeah.
Come to find out.
Congrats on your first deer.
No kidding.
Thank you.
It was a great shot.
It was a good shot.
It was a great shot
about that.
Yeah. She led it a little bit, and if it would have, jumped out and got in front of the bullet, it would have been right through the lungs, and it didn't. She knocked it right down in the neck. So I don't know.
A kill is a kill.
Exactly.
I can't talk. A kill is a kill, and man, that's as painless and as fast and as good as it gets. So that's
anything from the neck to the lungs. I think with that shotgun. I don't know. I think it was probably at maybe 30 yards. So it's gonna knock a deer down anywhere in that area. So.
And something I've noticed after, like, I've killed several deer, but even still, like, I still get that, excited feeling when I shoot one. And I think, when I lose that, it's time to take a break for a while. You always get that. But I think something, see if you felt the same way. One, I noticed the gun went off, but I remember, like, when I'm at the range, I'll notice how hard a gun kicks or how loud it is, because my gun's really loud. But when I shoot a deer in the field, I'm like, yeah, it went off, but I don't remember it being particularly loud or kicking. And then even after, like, I think it's just the whole adrenaline rush thing. You're like, I'm not even cold. Like, it's in the 20s out here. But it's just that adrenaline, and what a crazy, awesome feeling.
Yeah. No, it was cool. And I remember at the range thinking that the gun really rang in my ear pretty bad. So I was a little nervous, like, do I need to wear like earplugs or something? And like when I shot it at the deer, I mean, it didn't even faze me. That's why, like, when that other deer came through, I was like, oh, I got this. Like, like I don't need to like anticipate the kick or the sound. So
yeah.
Which is
awesome. That's awesome. Well, Kyle, meanwhile, 300 yards away, you were sitting on a tree throwing lead as well. So, from your perspective, what happened?
So I went out, and we had just driven by this, this end of the property the day before. Paige and I went with my stepdad. We drove through there, and I was, eyeing all the trees, and I saw that stand that he had in there. So I was like, yep, I don't see anything else right now. So I'm going to go to what I see, what I know. So I went into that tree stand that night and climbed up this rickety old 2x4 ladder that just was I don't know.
It wasn't a ladder stand. It was literally a ladder leaning up against a tree that had a stand in it.
Built out of old 2x4s.
Yes.
And then there's like, one of those like $50 hang-on stands, and it had probably been up there for 2 years. So, and they had not changed the straps at all. I noticed. So, how the webbing kind of gets a little dusty and crotchety a little bit. Oh, it was creaking the whole time I was up there. So I'm just like up there, and every time I'm
all this like, to say you're grateful for your very safe and very comfortable harness. Yes.
Yes, exactly. So glad I threw that thing on there. Because if it would have broken, I would have just been hanging on the side of the tree and not plunging to 15 feet of broken ankles or something.
And then we'd have to call the fire department and fish you out of the tree or something.
No, we
don't
just
do
get
that.
the tractor.
I'm gonna say
There we go.
we have tractors.
Get in the bucket.
Yep, exactly. Climb up. No, I mean, if I wasn't injured at all, I think I could have like just shimmied down the tree.
Yeah.
The ladder would have still been there, and I would have just pushed up on the ladder and untied myself and climbed down. So, but
So you were in the tree.
I definitely thought of all of that through while I was there. I was like, this is how I would get down if this thing breaks. Like, that ladder's close enough. I can get on it. I can push my way up. The rope's just long enough that I can put my foot there. Oh, yeah. So I sat down and probably maybe 30 minutes in, I see a deer, comes, pop it, real quiet, pops out from my left, starts wandering its way in towards me and gets close enough. I see that it's a spike, real short, short spikes, but a spike, true spike. So it wasn't like a button or anything like that. So you could see the antlers on it. So I was like, kind of in between. I was like, I think it looks kind of small, not really sure. So I was going to wait on it for a little while. But he definitely came within range because I could hear something going on behind him. And it was two bigger bucks. They were kind of pouncing around each other. And all this, it's real brushy where I'm sitting. So, like, you can only see about 40 yards real well. I mean, you can see other things, but, like, you only have shooting lanes at these certain spots. So it's hard to pick things out at first. So that spike came in. I mean, I could have knocked it down. I think it ended up at about 25 yards the first time it came in. But I see these two bigger bucks behind it in the brush, just kind of playing around. And I was like, no, I'm going to wait for one of those to get clear shot. And so,
was that a hard decision to wait or to take the one right in front of you? Because that can be tricky. And especially with that one, that I missed, I was like, wow, that doe would have been such an easy shot right in front of me, but I was waiting on this other one. So was that hard?
A little bit, but it was like, so early in the night, I think, is what like made it easier for me. So it was like, I sat down and it was probably 20 minutes later when he came walking in. So I still have like, I don't know, hour and a half or so of like shooting time. And we actually, when we drove by this part of the property earlier, we saw these two of the bucks just kind of running around in there. So in my mind, I'm just like, no, this is their home turf. This is where they're going to be. One of them's going to give me a body shot, like I'm going to get one within 100 yards. Like that's what I just kept telling myself. Like I'm going to get this. So no, I don't know what it was, but it like, I put the bead on that little guy. He walked up, there's a little bit of snow there. He was chomping down on snow while I'm watching him, which is pretty cool.
Really?
Yeah. Huh. So he's eating snow in front of me, which I thought was pretty interesting. Then he wanders back, in the brush, and those two bigger bucks never came in at that point. So like, so that's when I second guessed myself. And I was like, should I have? But then I look back over and they're over by the edge of the field, which was, just within range, but in a bunch of brush. And after watching you shot get deflected the day before, I was like, I'm not shooting through the brush at 70 or 80 yards at this deer because it'll just, it won't be a clean shot.
Learn from that other moron who already
exactly. So I just, they were still in there. So I knew they were right there in the area. So I was like, now something's going to give me a shot. Well, it got later and it was at sunset and I'm in the woods. So at sunset, it's getting kind of dark, So I'm like, oh man, well, the spike comes wandering right back in and he comes right underneath me. Dang. And there's a steady wind. I think it was out of the south. So the wind, blowing my scent north. And this deer just wanders right around. All the deer to the south of me. So the wind was perfect for this. He comes wandering up, wanders around right in front of me to the west, and then wanders starts going north of me. And I was just like, man, he's just gonna, blow me and take off, and the sun's gonna set and nothing else is gonna come in. So I'm just thinking, if he catches my wind, like tonight's pretty much done.
Yeah.
Tonight's done. So it's like I can either shoot this deer in front of me or, sit for the next 20 minutes and wait for him to smell me. So I lined up on him. I shot him, and he just books it. And I blew right through his chest, but he goes taking off running behind the tree right behind me and running back down to the south where the other 2 bucks were. Come to find out they were bedded right there waiting to go out on the field. And he spooks up one of the other bucks, and it jumps up and it lines up this perfect broadside shot at about, I don't know, 70 or 80 yards.
Yes.
Yes. And so I just pulled up on him, leaned against the tree, and pop. So it was about within 30 seconds. The tiny little nub spikes, which in Michigan is considered antlerless because it's less than 3 inches. So he was
and that was smart to think about too, because I guess because that deer was close enough that you got a really good look at him.
Oh yeah.
So you got your, I keep calling it a doe tag, but an antlerless tag.
Antlerless tag.
A little bit on a technicality, but that's very clever for you to shoot that one. So you're like, oh, now a buck pops up. I still have my buck tag.
Yes. So that buck pops up, and I had saw those 2, and I knew they were both like real bucks. I couldn't, didn't count the points or anything. They were just in the brush, and it was hard to see back there. So, but he came out clear shot. Didn't see how many points were on him, but I saw the broadside of the barn in front of me. So I lobbed him out there at, I don't know, it's probably 75 yards. And he fell flat on his side, and he did not move.
Nice.
So that was my second shot within about, I don't know, 15 seconds that Paige was listening to through the trees right before she shot hers. So, and they ended up dropping. How far apart do you think they were? They're 20 yards?
Yeah, probably 20 yards. Like we walked, you like, there's one, and there's the other one right over there.
Like, oh, I can see the eyes of the other one right there. So it's just like over a couple of logs. So so that was really exciting. Like that, man, just shooting the first one, that smaller spike, like I was so excited. And then I turned around and I see this bigger one. I was like, oh yeah.
So on your birthday, Paige gets her first deer, and then you tag out in 30 seconds.
In 30 seconds.
Tag
at the
out
end of the night.
On my birthday in probably less than 30 seconds. Yep.
And you're also the only guy I know who 2 years consecutively has gotten a double. Boom, boom. Boom, boom. Do it again.
You could call me trigger happy.
You got it done.
It works.
But guess what happens to my freezer after those days? They fill up.
Well, that's the goal, right?
Real quick. Yes.
Well, and then I thought
shoot legal deer, fill the freezer, and eat well for the next 12 months.
Well, and then when y'all pick me up, you're like, yeah, we got deer. But like, I don't remember exactly how you worded it.
You said get the deer.
Yeah, we're gonna get the deer.
Yeah, we'll pick up the deer. And so I remember it was this clever ruse of the English language that the plural and the singular of deer is the same. So I was like, wait, Paige, you got one? That's awesome. And Kyle, you got one? That's awesome. Wait, Kyle, you got 2? You got 3 deer? We gotta go pick up 3 deer? I was stoked.
It was definitely an exciting night, to say the least. Oh man, I was just bursting at the seams with just excitement. It was awesome. I was very proud of my wife. Sat by herself, got her first deer, knocked it down right there, and then just like, heart's beating out of my chest shooting deer myself. I love it.
That's so cool. Well, and then we scooped them up. We didn't have to track any of them. They all fell basically right. We knew where all of them were. So we scooped them up, brought them back, then had this awesome idea to clean them inside of the barn. So y'all went to go get another doe tag or go get gloves, or you went to the store to get something. And so normally down here, like recently, we've just done the gutless method for all of them. We haven't gutted them out. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to take this time to venture into remembering how to gut a deer like the way people do it up there. So I was like in a barn, just like digging through guts, and like it took me like a really long time. And I was like, "Oh yeah, this is why I don't do it this way." And then y'all got back right after. I was like, "Yep, look at the mess I made."
Well, they decided when I backed my truck in, and they decided to come out and hang the deer Michigan buck pole style by the head, which also is like, huh? Down here, like, no, you hang it by the back leg so you can, if you want to gut it, hang it by the back leg so you can actually work on it and get it.
Because hung it up, and then I was looking at it, I'm like, but I got to cut and it's a.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
how's this gonna work? I don't want to be under there. But we had a couple beers. We made a huge mess. I think we had like crazy pop music playing in the background in a warm barn.
The local radio station, which is always playing in the shop. Paige cut up her first deer.
Yep.
She quartered it out and everything. So that was pretty awesome.
And I was on hedge clipper duty.
Yes.
Cut the limbs for us until it gets her deer.
Yeah.
The power of leg loppers.
Leg loppers. Might as well call them that. I'm pretty sure that's all mine will be used for like the next 5 years until I have a tree big enough to actually use them.
You could probably just take a normal pair of loppers, hang them in a sporting goods store with a picture of a big buck on them, and call them leg loppers, and probably make a bunch of money.
Probably. We should probably do that.
But then after that, we had a mission to clean up that place. And so there was that huge roll of paper, thank goodness, that was like a mile long of bright pink paper.
I'm pretty sure it was literally a mile long. Like,
yeah, I mean, that roll weighed 500 pounds at least.
Yes.
So we're using this huge roll of tissue paper to clean up just blood all over the barn.
Yes, big tissue paper.
we eventually got it cleaned up. Paige, I think you poured like Dawn soap all over the floor, and then Kyle turned into a Comet salesman trying to.
Comet is the way to go. Comet will clean anything.
Wait. What did Kyle want to use before the Comet? I can't remember. It was like.
He's like, let's just pour sawdust on it.
Yes.
They're like, well, okay, now we got to clean up the sawdust.
Hey, I would have soaked it up. Nobody would have noticed. They just thought it was grease on the floor the day later.
But eventually, we got it done. We got it all cleaned up.
Yes, we did. Learned our lesson.
And then after all that, I think y'all were like, okay, we're mostly done. Thank you for helping. You go to bed. We'll get the last little bit. And then like 45 minutes later, like I had just gotten in bed. And then Kyle, you kind of like stumbled in there and you just like kind of slammed the key down like on the bedside table. And you're like, we're sleeping in. You can take the truck.
Good luck. I hope you do something.
You're like, just text me or something. And then that morning, I don't think I saw like one little spike, again, way far away that morning. And so that's when I was starting to feel the pressure of like, well, shoot, they tagged out, or they got 3 deer last night, and I already whiffed one, didn't get the other one. So that's when I was starting to be like, man, did I just ruin this whole, like, I'm not going to get another chance. So saw that morning. And then that evening, y'all went to go do a visit, and I stayed back and did another hunt from that same tree because I was being stubborn, because I was like, maybe that buck will come out again, or maybe that doe will come out again. I don't know, but I'm just going to stay in this tree till I see something, till I shoot something. Didn't see anything that night. So
the crazy thing was we didn't see anything that night either.
Yeah, so it was just an off night. I don't know if it was the moon, the wind, the weather,
something.
Who knows?
Holding them back. I know it was almost a full moon at that point.
And then so the next morning is Thanksgiving Day, and so our plan there was like, okay, we're gonna hunt the morning, then come back, get cleaned up, do Thanksgiving, and huge family up there. So Thanksgiving is quite a big hurrah.
Yes, it is.
So do Thanksgiving.
40 people.
Then probably.
House.
What's that?
pack 40 people in the old farmhouse.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it was fun. A bunch of people in there. And so we're going to do Thanksgiving and then come back and hunt afterwards. And I have to say that was the first Thanksgiving where people were like, oh, yeah, turn on the Lions game. And I'm like, oh, yeah, the Lions. Because all my family for Thanksgiving, it's all SEC football. And they're just like yelling and screaming at the TV the whole time.
Yeah.
But that was a whole lot of fun. Then we're like, okay, we're gonna get back in the tree or get back out there that night. We didn't have a whole bunch of time, so we're like, okay, we got like basically an hour and a half. I think that was like the one night I didn't bring hand warmers with me because I was like, it'll be an hour and a half. I'll be okay. And it ended up being all right. I mean, they would have been nice to have, I guess, in hindsight, but it was all right. And so that night, I was just looking and just like mentally, I was rehearsing. Okay, I was like, okay, so the doe's gonna come across the field with that buck right behind him, or that other one's gonna come out, and like it's gonna happen, and then nothing. And then just like I was so excited, I'm like, I got to see something. It's got to happen tonight. This is the last night of the hunt. And then about the last hour, I was starting to get mentally kind of desperate. And I'm like, oh, it better happen. Please let it happen. And so then at that point, I was just praying, and I was like, God, just put some deer out here, something that I can legally shoot at in range. Like that's good. No. And so it got to the last probably 3 minutes of the hunt, and I hadn't seen anything, and it was getting dark. And so, well, it was already dark. And so legal there is approximately 30 minutes after sunlight. They specify the time. So I was looking at my watch. I'm like, 3 minutes. Okay, 2 minutes. And then I saw kind of something out of the corner of my eye, and I think it was a small buck that had just been staging in the woods, waiting for it to get dark, and then he just darted out right in front of me. And so he was probably at about 60, 65 yards, over 50, less than 100. And I just saw him, and I just had enough time. I turned my little Tacticam on, which the footage didn't come out because it was so dark, took off my glove, and then had the gun up on him. And then I was just following him, and then I saw that there was a big pivot, an irrigation pivot in the field. And I'm like, that's about to get in the way of my shot. So I'm like, I got to stop him before that. And so I just mouth bleeded at him, and he stopped right there. And the second he stopped, I didn't wait. I'm like, I have a shot. I'm going to take it. And so I put that little lever action on him and clocked him. And so I knew I hit him from the hit. It felt from the shot. It felt good. And then I saw him actually run out in the field and then just do kind of a few wavering, uncomfortable steps and then crash into the field. And so I was like, yes, he's down. He's down out in the field. We don't have to go tromping through the woods. And at that point, I was like, well, I could get on the blood, but there's just enough gray light left in the sky. I'm like, I'm just going to make a beeline for where I think he went down. I'll either run straight into him or I won't find him. And if I don't find him, I'll go back and look for blood. Yeah. So I just picked out a tree right behind kind of where I thought he went. And so I just headed that direction, walked right into him. So I think in hindsight that buck was the same buck on day 2, I guess it was, that had come out right after dark because it came from the same woods going the same direction. Right. Yeah. And it's just kind of, that's its thing. Right after dark, it runs out in that field. And so that night he was just slightly earlier than the night before and managed to get it done. And I was thankful, and I was super excited. I know when I was texting, because I was like, yes, like I thought it wasn't going to happen. Not like I missed my big chance and I wasn't going to get another chance. And then it came out and it's just like, got it done.
Not eating tag soup.
Yes, it all worked out.
So thankful. Just so thankful.
On Thanksgiving.
On Thanksgiving. Oh, man. Well, that's awesome. I think it's one of those things. So besides, let's say, Texas and Mississippi, right, are the 2 places you've hunted most. Are those the only 2 states that you had killed a whitetail before this?
Yes. So I've now killed more in Texas than anywhere else, followed by Mississippi, and then this is the only other place I'd killed a whitetail other than those.
Gotcha. Awesome. I was curious of that. I didn't know if you had done a hunt somewhere else where you'd shot something.
Nope, not 6. Well, I've hunted like turkey and stuff, but I've never killed a deer anywhere else.
Gotcha. Cool.
So we managed to all get it done. And I thought it was interesting. It was all male deer. So 2 of the tags were antlerless, 2 of the tags were buck tags, but it was all male deer. And so it's kind of weird the way Michigan does some of this stuff, but it ended up working out to our benefit.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, what's nice is that you, in certain areas, it depends on where you are, but where we were, you can, if you have that antlerless and buck tag, you can pretty much, your first deer, you can shoot whatever you want because it's going to be one or the other. You know, if antler's more than 3 inches, throw a buck tag on it. Less than 3 inches, throw antlerless on it. So that's the nice thing about that first deer that you shoot is that you're not like, you know, it's like right at shooting light, and you're like, is that a doe or a button, or is that a, you know? It's like, well, you know, it's meat in the freezer, and then
if you're just meat hunting your first deer, it's legal.
Yeah. And then the next one, then you're like, all right, now we gotta really figure this out. Make sure that that's a doe, or make sure that that is a buck that's got, you know, antlers that are tall enough or whatever. So, but then, I mean, just like Texas, there's certain counties or areas where there's higher regulations, or but they are trying to get the deer numbers down right now, so kind of deregulating some of that. And if you're a Michigan resident, you can, if you like deer meat, you can shoot a lot of deer up there, because you can go pick up a $20 antlerless tag, you know, until they're gone for your area, so you can go and shoot, you know. I don't know if there's a limit on it, but you know, 3 or 4 or whatever in a week, as long as you can go pick up the tags. I think that's how it goes.
Or unit, or I guess
your unit tags. Yeah. So because I mean, just the diseases they have up there, they're just trying to get the numbers down. And we saw it. There's a lot of deer up there.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I mean, like you go from one block of woods to the next, and you've probably got 30 or 40 deer living in any, you know, 100-acre forest.
The problem was never a lack of deer. It was more like bow hunting. Just, are the deer within, you know, 50 yards of me? Are they within my close limited range?
Exactly. Is it what I want to shoot and where I want to shoot it? And but they're there. Yeah. If you can, if you live there and you have the property, like, there is no reason to not shoot a deer.
And it all worked out.
Yeah,
I think
if you're planning everything right,
with 2 Arctic coolers full of about 200 pounds of lean venison. So it all worked out.
Yep, can't complain about that.
Which I still have aging in my backyard now.
The work isn't even close to being done.
Yeah, processing.
I've got a lot of cutting left to do in the next week.
Yeah, and guess what I'm doing this weekend?
Hunting.
Yep. Well, it's kind of a.
What's the next adventure? Where are you going? What are you doing?
Just East Texas, and it's a buck only county and a place where I've never shot at anything. So it's more just like a fun camping trip where you have a gun, but it'll be cool.
Yeah.
And so now I'm thinking about lessons learned from this whole trip. I think the first day or two. So we got this half right. The first day or two, we should have not even been working or focused on, you know, necessarily killing something. It was all about learning. Where are they? Where do we need to put our stands? What are the patterns? I think we mostly identified that right, and then we fine-tuned it a little bit in the next 48 hours. So I think we were pretty close there, but I think it just needs to kind of hone our focus that it's just when you have 5 days to hunt, the first day or two is all about learning.
Yeah.
So that was a powerful lesson.
Yeah, I think jumping around with that pop-up in that big field, we did not play that the best way we could. Definitely think I learned from that, where even though it was by a pig barn and they were a little bit nose blind, we did sit the one night and they probably didn't come out because it was so windy, but it was really windy, but our wind was blowing right into their bedding area. And we didn't see a dang deer. Not one.
Yeah. And it was kind of like you have a spot, and so you're committed to hunting that one spot instead of learning a little bit more about the area.
Like maneuvering a little bit better and maybe pulling back a little bit and waiting for them to come to you a little bit more. in the end, I mean, it was the last day when we moved in and sat in that spot in the wind, and we were just kind of like, we played the best card we could at that point. But early in the
Yeah.
week, if we weren't bouncing back and forth so much, they probably would have come in a little bit closer, just because we had pressured them pretty hard the first 2 days.
Yeah, those deer at the beginning of the week when I first hunted there, and I'm like, there's a whole bunch just hanging out here. There was no pressure when I was sitting there, but by the last hunt when y'all were sitting there were very pressured deer.
Yeah, you could tell that they knew we were there.
Total body language changed.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I think.
Well, and my obvious lesson learned is don't shoot through brush. It's something I know, and I thought I was doing okay, but in hindsight, be more careful on that stuff. Yeah, I think, there's some twigs here, there's some branches here. What are the odds that I'm gonna hit one? Well, you're either on it or you're not. And if you're on it, it's not going to work out for you.
Yeah.
So that was a good reminder to me. Like, don't be cocky about that stuff. Like, it can totally screw everything up.
Yep.
So that was a good reminder. And then another thing that I'm thinking about, well, before that, so another lesson, we showed up with like 2 huge bags of corn, and we kind of got laughed at a little bit. It was like, like down in Texas, food's a big deal. So if you can hunt deer over food, like, it's going to be a good strategy. So when we read that it was legal to hunt over hand scattered corn, as long as it was outside of, they have a lot of rules about it, but it's still legal. It had to be hand scattered.
For the next 15 days, it's legal.
Yeah, that's true. They're changing it at the end of the year, or at the end of the season. So we were all excited about that, brought up all this corn, and then they just looked at us like, you morons, you're hunting on a cornfield. Like, what's that? Like, literally, they bagged that up here or Iowa, shipped it down to Texas, and like, you brought it back? What are you doing?
Exactly. And when we finally had kind of trudged through the cornfield, you're looking at the ground and you're like, there's corn everywhere on the ground.
There's whole cobs.
Yes, like everywhere. Like,
yeah, maybe we didn't need that.
Are they gonna pick the one that's out of a plastic bag, or the one that's just been sitting out on the ground that they've been eating for the last 2 months?
So that was kind of silly. My other kind of,
now I know. I should have known better. I'm sorry.
Well, I mean, if we were on in some place where there was no, like, there were places up there that was just a stretch of woods with no food. So it's more just where you end up setting your stand.
Yeah.
My other lesson that I'm still kind of thinking about, and I don't know, I haven't entirely processed it yet. So after that first night, and after I saw that buck, I got so excited about that buck that I'm like, nope, I'm hunting here the rest of the time. And I know a lot of people who basically will hunt a stand once and then won't hunt it again. And if I think about historically my hunts, like, I've had the best luck my first sit, usually, like in any location. I tend to do the very best the first time I sit in that location, just because I haven't messed it up. I haven't stunk it up. I haven't spooked any deer there. Most likely to succeed. But then I kept hunting that same spot. So I'm not sure if that was a good idea or a bad idea. It ended up working out for me, but just because that deer happened to run out there. So I don't know. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it kind of goes on both ends with that, where if you have a lot of like different deer in the area, I think you can kind of get away with more, if you're up in a tree, you can get away with a little bit more like coming in there, hunt after hunt. But yeah, if you were hunting that one deer, I think probably blew it, on that, the
especially
one shot
after
or
I
whatever.
shot.
Exactly. Yeah. You shoot at something, it tends to not like run back to that same exact spot.
Yeah.
But sometimes they do. Especially with bow. I guess I've heard of that several times where, you take a shot at something and whatever happens, and then 2 days later, wind's right again. You go back in, get a shot again at it. But yeah, I mean, where I sat, that was my first hunt where I shot both those deer. So I would agree with that. I think that there's definitely a lot of different variables that come in there. If you're sitting in a blind at a feeder, that's one thing. If you're sitting in Texas, or if you're, throwing a ground blind around, a couple hundred acres, then
Yeah.
yeah, they're gonna feel that pressure, and it's either hold back, like good wind, hold back, wait, and then go in for that one hunt that just seems right, and that's probably going to be your best hunt. Or I think when you're just jumping around in their area constantly, it's not going to help your chances. Definitely learn that.
Yeah.
I mean, eventually, if you got enough deer, something's going to walk in front of you, but it didn't help you. We didn't get that one buck that was wandering around that big field.
No.
Um,
One-sided Willie.
One-sided Willie did not walk in front of us. No. But I think if we really, if I understood just the area and the wind and all that a little bit better, I think we could have got a shot at him, because he wandered up and down that line a few times.
Yeah, I saw him twice, and you saw him twice.
Once or twice. No, it was twice, because I saw him in the woods that last day.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely wasn't gonna get a shot crawling on the ground after him.
Which I wish I could overlay that video. Paige got this video of you sneaking on your ground. It was the ultimate, just like Elmer Fudd, like hands and knees, like looking at a deer that we can't see in the video, and it's just be very, very quiet.
I got my shotgun.
Well, I know another takeaway that is probably not a good lesson learned, but you might be a little bit paranoid about looking at shotgun primers now.
Yes, I will be looking at that. I will also be fully ejecting around if it ever doesn't shoot, instead of just being like, because I thought it was my
re-smash that same one.
Yeah, well, I just thought it was my own error, and I was like, is there somehow that like that could click? And I didn't have a round in there, it just didn't register in my mind in the moment. Yeah, like something. Yeah. So like I thought it was my own error, and then come to find out like it wasn't, and I should have just popped that one out, put a new one in, and pulled up and just shot at that thing again. Because the next round that was in there, Paige shot with it, and so I don't know. She shot twice in a row, so she shot at that one she killed, and then shot at another one coming past her. So it went off. She shot twice. So
yes, I think it was just that round. Thinking of other lessons, tree stands, definitely a good way to go.
Yes, Michigan.
I think all of those setups would have worked just like every bit as good with it. There was no advantage to a ground blind ever, other than our convenience of moving it around a whole bunch, which we probably shouldn't have been doing anyway.
Exactly. Yeah, if we would have been in a tree stand on that corner by the pig barns, we would have had a nice doe walk in front of us for sure.
Yeah,
I'm very confident that would have happened one of the nights.
Well, can you think of anything else?
That's what I was really thinking, was the shotgun shell, and then bringing a couple cheap tree stands out there just to get a little mobile, bring some sticks with you or something that you can, like, if that's the only thing you're hooking up, throw up 3 spots or whatever when we first get there, and then just get out. And then when we go and hunt those spots, bring in sticks.
And the climber mostly worked pretty well up there, because it's a bunch of tall, straight trees, unlike little post oaks down here. Wow. So it mostly worked pretty well.
We somehow did all end up with poison ivy, though, in November.
That's true. Lesson learned. I don't know if you can see it. I had no idea that you could get poison ivy when it's below freezing outside. But those vines are still there. They don't have leaves on them, so it's hard to identify them.
You don't know what vine's what. But Paige got it too, and she didn't even go in a tree stand at all. So I don't know if it was
all in the woods there too,
in the brush when we put that last ground blind set up. One of those 2 spots in the woods. So,
yeah, mine's
where I shot my deer. Maybe where we were pulling those deer out.
They could have had it all over, because they were bedded in all that thick crap. So they could have actually had like the oil on their fur, and it didn't affect them. But then, you get to cuddling with that deer trying to wrestle it into the truck.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I don't know. Somehow we're all, mine's not bad. I think yours was a lot worse. Paige got it. She's got it on her leg somehow.
Huh. Yeah, mine was real bad the last couple of days, but I'm kind of at the tail end of it, I think.
Yeah.
But man, it was a fun trip. I was excited to see you knock down 2 fat whitetails, get your cooler just full of nice, healthy.
Oh, yeah.
Man,
That was
you're raising your kids right, eating deer meat and them getting excited about it and saying, "Daddy, did you shoot this? Did you kill
oh
this
yeah.
meat?"
Yep.
You're doing it right, man. I think that's awesome. So you loaded up your coolers.
Yes.
Paige got her first deer.
Yes.
I got a buck at the last minute when I was all
Yep.
pouty about not being able to get anything. Man, it all ended up working out, and I'm very thankful for being able to hunt up there. So thank you. That was an awesome trip.
I'm glad you could come. We really enjoyed it. Definitely
And
made the trip more educational for me and much more exciting. So
driving 18 hours with 2 people in a truck is a lot better than one person.
yes. Or with a couple of toddlers in the truck, which I did this summer, and I don't
Yep.
want to do that by myself
Yep.
again.
A lot of bathroom breaks.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Well, unless you have any other thoughts, I say we close it out.
I think that's about it.
All right. Well, it was fun. To anybody watching this, hope you enjoyed listening to just our goofy stories. And we do this just kind of as a way to just document these memories, talk about it. We can go back and listen to it again just so we don't forget.
Yeah.
So that we learn lessons, we get to laugh at our mistakes, celebrate our victories. It's just worth so much to just go back and record these as kind of a living diary. So I hope you enjoy just kind of tuning in for this kind of stuff. Maybe you learned something. Maybe you just laughed at us just being goofballs out in the woods, but it was fun. So until next time, stay safe, be free, and never stop seeking adventure.